which unfortunately brings us to our first story of the night.
It does. Let me go ahead and drop that for you.
Yeah, let me get my notes ready, which I should have done already. But I grew up with Teri Garr. She was in everything. She was in Close Encounters of the Third Kind with Richard Dreyfuss, with him going nuts with the potatoes. Remember that?
Yeah.
Carrie Garr dies. Tootsie, Oscar nominee, and Young Frankenstein star was 79. And Teri Garr, the beloved comic actor who scored an Oscar nomination for Sidney Pollack's Tootsie, starring opposite Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks, starred opposite. Sorry, let me start over. Teri Garr, the beloved comic actor who scored an Oscar nomination for Sidney Pollack's Tootsie, starred opposite Gene Wilder, Mel Brooks, classic horror spoof Young Frankenstein, and played Richard Dreyfuss, put-upon wife in Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Died Tuesday of multiple sclerosis in Los Angeles. She was 79.
I didn't know she had MS.
She did, yeah. That might be why we haven't heard from her in a bit. But her publicist, Heidi Schaefer, confirmed the news, writing, Teri Garr passed away this morning after a long battle with MS. She was in Los Angeles and passed away peacefully, surrounded by family and friends. Garr was diagnosed with MS in 1999, had struggled with health issues in recent years. Garr got her start with bit parts in a number of 1960s Elvis Presley movies, including Viva Las Vegas and Roustabout, and appeared in the 1964 Annette Funicello romp Pajama Party. She continued to land small movie roles throughout the decade and also appeared on an episode of classic TV series Star Trek as a secretary in the popular 1968 episode Assignment Earth. That Girl May Be RFD, It Takes a Thief, in Room 222. Well, I don't know how popular that episode could have been because we never got that spin-off show. You know that was a pilot.
It was another one, and there was a lot. I don't know if you have a lot of them that before that, but since then you've had a lot of these backdoor pilots within other TV shows. Mork and Mindy from Happy Days.
Yep.
Laverne and Shirley from Happy Days.
Yep.
You know, a lot of these shows that get the characters introduced and then they'd spin them off. Not
introduce them for a few episodes in one season, see how they rate with the audience, and then put them on something else. Yeah,
exactly right. But and Big Al and I were talking about this last night. If you've ever seen that episode of Star Trek Assignment Earth, it was essentially American television's answer to Doctor Who is what it would have been.
Yeah. I like that episode, and I would have watched the spinoff had they done it.
Yep,
but,
me too.
In the early 70s, she recurred on the Sonny and Cher Hour and guested on MASH, The Odd Couple, The Bob Newhart Show, Barnaby Jones, and other popular series, but her breakout came in 1974. She appeared in Francis Ford Coppola's Best Picture Oscar nominee, The Conversation, playing the girlfriend of star Gene Hackman, and later that year landed her most famous role. Garr starred as Inga, who becomes the lab assistant to Wilder's Dr. Frederick Frankenstein, if you please.
Exactly.
Hold on, I lost my spot here. Frankenstein, if you please. I didn't know she was on the Bob Newhart Show, too. And if you smash hit comedy Young Frankenstein, serving as Brooks' follow-up to Blazing Saddles, its stellar cast included Cloris Leachman, Marty Feldman, Peter Boyle, Madeline Kahn, and Hackman in a memorable cameo. Her sweet, somewhat naive, or not, and oddly accented character had no shortage of memorable lines. Who could forget, would you want to have a role in the hay? He would have an enormous Schwanstucker. Or put the candle back. Yes. The film won critical acclaim, was a huge commercial hit, later being resurrected as a Broadway musical. I saw a local production of that years ago. It was a great time. The mid-70s found Garr doing guest shots on other hit TV shows such as McCloud and Maude before she co-starred opposite George Burns and John Denver in Carl Reiner's 1977 comedy feature Oh God. Just weeks later came the release of
that's right. Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh.
She's been in a lot of movies I remember growing up. Steven Spielberg's release of Close Encounters, alien film in which she played Ronnie Neary, who tried to hold her young family together as her husband Dreyfuss obsessed over a shared vision that ultimately runs off to chase it. Close Encounters of the Third set multiple box office records and became the top grossing Columbia Pictures movie in history at that point. Garr continued to work in films as the 1980s dawned, co-starring in the big screen with The Black Stallion, Coppola's One from the Heart, and John Schlesinger's comic romp Honky Tonk Freeway. Her next role would be among her most famous. Garr played Dustin Hoffman's sort of girlfriend in Tootsie 1982, Pollock's Best Picture Oscar-nominated cross-dressing comedy about an out-of-work actor Hoffman who lands a plum soap opera role while disguised as a woman. Dorothy Michaels became an overnight sensation, and hijinks ensue as Hoffman's Michael Dorsey struggles to keep his secret while being courted by clueless older men. Garr's Sandy Lester auditions for the fictional soap became Dorsey's lover while he secretly longs for their secret co-star Julia, played by Jessica Lange, who went on to win the supporting actress Oscar over Garr. Also starring Dabney Coleman, Charles Durning, and Bill Murray, the film was an enormous commercial hit, surpassing Close Encounters as Columbia's top-grossing film. She also starred with Jackie Gleason and Carl Malden in The Sting 2, and as Michael Keaton's ad executive wife in the role reversal comedy Mr. Mom, both in 1983. Penned by nascent filmmaker John Hughes, the latter's cast also included Martin Mull, Ann Gillian, Jeffrey Tambor, and Christopher Lloyd. Around that time, Garr became guesting on NBC's burgeoning talk show Late Night with David Letterman. Her frequent flirty, bickering visits, more than 24 over the 11 years, were comic gold, with a nearly blushing David Letterman often barely able to contain his glee. She also appeared on David Letterman's second annual Holiday Film Festival in 1986 and later guested on the CBS follow-up show Late Show with David Letterman about half a dozen times from 1993 to 2008. Watch them in a 1980. Oh, in the sit down here. And Garr continued to work in movies and television in 2010s, famously recurring as Phoebe's mother on Friends, and also guest starred in TV's ER, Frasier, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and others. She was a series.
Funny thing is that casting as Phoebe's mom, she was just perfect. You could, I mean, they resemble each other enough that you could see them as mother and daughter, but their characters were very, that was just spot on.
Oh, look at this. She also had a second career as a voiceover actor on TV tunes, including King of the Hill, Legend of Prince Valiant, Dr. Katz, Professional Therapist, 2 Scooby-Doo series, and as Mary McGinnis on Batman Beyond. She was the mother of Terry McGinnis, the one who took over as Batman in the horrible dystopian future on that show. But I forget. She was she later had a second career as a costume designer, wardrobe staffer, whose credit includes. Okay, Linda Garr. Her mom was Phyllis Lynn Garr, who was a wardrobe person. Okay, cool. I mean, we could go on and on, but no, she big.
Well,
career.
But we don't have to, because I also included this one.
I'll read from it.
David Letterman, Michael Keaton, Richard Dreyfuss, Steve Martin, all of these celebrities remembering her. She had a big impact on the people she co-starred with.
Yeah. David Letterman is calling Teri Garr, who died Tuesday, one of his all-time favorite guests, while Garr's Mr. Mom co-star Michael Keaton laments a day I feared and knew was coming, and Richard Dreyfuss, who co-starred with Garr in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, remembers her as vibrant, playful, and so funny. The late, great Teri Garr, who brightened everything from sitcoms, Batman, That Girl, Friends, to variety shows, Shindig, Sonny and Cher, and Comedy Shower, talk shows. She did them all, but her classic appearances on Letterman can't be beat, and some of the funniest movies ever made, Young Frankenstein, Tootsie, and even the occasional drama. I adored her, tweeted Dreyfuss. She was vibrant, playful, and so funny. Michael Keaton, this day I feared and knew was coming. Forget about how great she was as an actress and comedian. She was a wonderful woman, not just great to work with, but great to be around, and go back and watch her comedic work. Man, she was great. Rest in peace, girl. In a brief post on Instagram, Letterman writes, remembering one of our all-time favorite guests, accompanied by a clip of the talk show host introducing Garr while giving her a standing ovation. Oh man, this is devastating, tweeted Paul Feig, who directed Garr in Unaccompanied Minors. Teri was a legend, so funny, so beautiful, so kind. I had the honor of working with her in 2006, and she was everything I dreamed she would be. Truly one of my comedy heroes. I couldn't have loved her more. This is such a loss. And Michael Keaton, who co-starred with Garr in 1999's Kill the Man. Michael McKean, who co-starred with Garr in 1999's Kill the Man, wrote, I will always love Teri Garr. Producer Gail Ann Hurd wrote, a truly fantastic actor in person. We worked with her briefly on Dick, and I'll never forget her. Valiant as she dealt with the ravages of MS, never complaining, terrified she'd lose her SAG, SAG Screen Actors Guild health insurance. We live in a country where Teri Garr had to worry about that. Well,
Yep.
like you've often said, right? We think, oh, these actors and these famous writers or whatever. No, they can get hit with costs too, especially when they're in their later years and can't find the work they used to. Yes.
This is what so many people fail to understand, that fame and fortune are not one and the same. They generally go hand in hand, but they are not synonymous. And you can be very famous and also very poor. And if you see somebody that's, on all the covers and, biggest movie of the year and so on and so forth, they may be very wealthy now, but if they don't continue to follow that up with acting gigs, that does not last long.
No. And she worked for a while and people loved working with her, but I guess the disease took its toll. But
one of the other, and that was the other thing we talked about when we were talking about the SAG-AFTRA strikes. Mm-hmm. People also have to remember that they're not, yes, they make a lot of money. It's a one-time lump sum kind of a thing for gig actors. These guys are contractors, just like I am. I'm not an actor, but I am a contractor, and I make money for doing a job, but I don't get any paid time off. I don't get any insurance. I don't get any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so if something happens, hopefully you have the money or you have some other kind of insurance somewhere.
Yeah. But if someone says she never starred in the Love Boat, well, I guess at that point when Love Boat was in its heyday, she was busy doing these big movies, so she didn't have time probably. But she was on is that correct though? She was on the original Adam West Batman series. It looked like
yes,
article,
she played one of the
henchwomen.
Henchwomen. Yes,
I liked how all the villains had an attractive henchwoman on their side. It wasn't necessarily a romantic interest. That's what nobody got about Harley Quinn in the original Batman the Anime series. That was kind of going with the tradition of the henchwomen that were on.
Yeah, exactly.
The Adam West show.
You don't take the whole romance aspect of it too seriously.
Well, I think they played with that later on, but in the beginning, no, she's just a henchwoman. Mr. Freeze had henchwomen; they were funny too.
That's right.
I'm trying to remember though, and so she can be credited as being on both the Adam West show and on a DC animated Batman show.
That's true.
Her and Adam West. Adam
Absolutely.
West played the Gray Ghost on Batman the Animated Series. That was a great
we were
episode.
talking about that earlier, Space Fraggle. She was in the episode Operation Earth?
Yeah.
Operation Earth?
Yeah.
I just said it a little while ago.
It was basically an alien on Earth, but he was trying to stop bad things.
Actually, no. He was born on Earth, raised by aliens in a distant galaxy.
Oh, interesting.
And trained to be a Doctor Who-like character to help guide humanity through these hard times. And the whole bookend of it was the Enterprise comes back in time using the slingshot effect that they discovered in a previous episode, because they were doing historic research to find out exactly how Earth got through the Cold War. And that led them to, discover Gary Seven and his assistant.
Let's see. Teri Garr also voiced Terry McGinnis' mother in Batman Beyond. That was interesting about Batman Beyond. He still had his mom. His father had gotten killed, but Terry McGinnis still had his mom, because they were his mother and father were divorced. But he got into a big
I'll tell you, sometimes being a superhero, having your parents still around can be challenging. Just look at Tim Drake. Just those of you that know.
Okay. I'm not sure if I get that reference, but now I need to look into that.
He becomes Robin, and he's coming home at night all beaten and bruised, hanging out with the rich philanthropist Playboy, and his parents aren't too happy about it.
They never did that on Batman the Animated Series. They should have played around with that. I think on Batman the Animated Series, I think his dad just ran off or something. I think his mom wasn't in the picture. Rest in peace, Teri Garr.